Hello everyone, my name is Hunter with Level 2 Gaming, and I'm here to bring you an episode of CoinCabinet. What is CoinCabinet, you ask? Well, it's a series where I sit down and play hard games. Now some of you may be thinking, well, Rogue Legacy, it's challenging, but it's not exactly the hardest game in the world. Well, I didn't grow up playing platformers like Mario and Sonic and things such as that. I grew up playing RPGs and shoot 'em up. So yeah, while my reactions may be trained and quicker, I'm not good at the whole platforming and dodging objects that come flying at you and avoiding spikes and such fun things like that. So it's always been a bit of a challenge. And now that our first life is out of the way, I might as well tell you about the life mechanic this series has. I will be playing these games for a set number of lives, and the episode will go as long as I have lives left. For Rogue Legacy, I will be operating on a 5 live standard. And it'll be fun to explore whatever challenges may come our way. So let's see, who shall be the heir of Sir Lee? Sir Dude, the barbarian, huh? Well, let's see what kind of adventures Sir Dude embarked on while he was alive, yeah? So let's see, what kind of past shall we make up for Sir Dude while we talk to the blacksmith? He looks like a criminal sort with his barbarian horns and stuff. So here we go. Sir Dude was never a obedient child, as some would say. Grew up under the great name of Ozlord. And the Ozlord lineage was known so well for actually the great adventurers that was in their line. He was even heir to Jacob Oswald, the great adventurer that ended up finding Paris. The entire city of Paris. Completely developed and everything. They're just like, hey look! I'm going to name these people the French! And other inventions or discoveries like air. Nobody knew air existed until Jacob Oswald came around, the great adventurer. But one day, Jacob Oswald came upon a challenge. This challenge was in the form of a tower. A tower like none other. What made this tower such a difficult challenge was that there is a great wizard who left his magic fountain at the top. And it was rumored anyone who touched this magic fountain's family would be cursed for the rest of eternity. And that Jacob wasn't really the type to shy away from a challenge. So of course he partook. And he defeated the tower. But he learned about the dark tale behind the curse all too late. Not only would it curse your family for all time to come, the only way to end this curse wasn't some spell or potion or charm that you could buy at the market. It was only to defeat Sir Jacob at the top of the tower. So forever, for as long as you lived, your lineage would be doomed to fight each other over and over until the prophecy's finally fulfilled. And that prophecy is feared bloodline eventually ends, consumes itself under the greed and power that is this curse and the magic fountain. Now this story has kind of been lost in time, so it might be mistranslated a little bit. It's not my fault. I'm just the storyteller, not the writer here. So, you know, upon learning that Sir Dude, as he's called, wasn't his birth name, but he didn't really much care for the birth name he was giving, which is Jeremiah. He learned that his father, Sir Lee, had tried to end this curse and wasn't very successful. He died quite early in the depths of the tower. And he just couldn't understand why his father would leave him at such a young age to end this curse that, frankly, he didn't care about. He was perfectly fine with the misfortunes that befell him. But apparently his father's wasn't. So he turned to, a life of delinquency. His only father figure kind of left him. He's upset with authority and stuff. Like, how could anyone tell him what to do if the person who was supposed to raise him, who gave him life, only cared about this stupid curse? So, over time, he kind of fell in with the wrong group of people and ended up owing a lot of money, and that's when he learned the tower and all of its monsters that guard it were filled with gold and riches and rare gems and magic and mystery, and that sounded alright to him. What's to stop him? Go in, make a few quick bucks, leave, sell off whatever he finds, splits even, continues doing whatever he wants, maybe buys a few pretty ladies a drink. But alas, just like those that came before him in his lineage, he was destined to be defeated by his own greed. Luckily, he did end up knocking up some poor bar wench, or tavern wench, and had a child. Now, what kind of child did he have? Good question. Let's go with the dwarf knight Shauna. Wow. Shauna's father was rich, apparently. I guess he did get a little bit of that gold that his greed led him to seek out. Okay. What shall Shauna's story be? Let me think for a second here. Got it. Shauna's story will be a tale of justice. Since she is a knight after all. Knights are, fairy tales and save the princess, or prince in her case. I believe. Let's see, yep, prince. Sorry. Had to take a few notes. Wow. Alright. So in Shauna's tale, she learned that her father's early demise was due to a life of delinquency, so of course she wasn't going to let the same fate befall her. She was going to change every mistake that her father made before he left her mother and her. So, she trained and fought all kinds of play yard injustices, like, boys that would put spiders in girls' hair, and stealing the last dodgeball. Eventually, she donned a sword and became a little bit of a mercenary, fighting from the name of justice. She even fought alongside the king's army once. But alas, the king's army, fighting local bandits and ne'er-do-wells in the forest, isn't quite like a room full of wisps. Let's see who Shauna's child was, shall we? No knaves. So let's go with Lady Jenny. A knight as well. Not quite as reputable though. See if we can get equipped with a little bit of armor first, shall we? Alright. Well, in this story, the story of Lady Jenny, she was destined to become a knight just like her mother, but being a knight just doesn't pay quite well enough to keep her interested. She was frequently caught sleeping on watch, and, you know, just ignoring her basic duties that were boring. She was all for a fight and loved getting down and dirty in the alleys looking for stolen goods and sweet rolls, but when it came to... Ooh, that's what insanity does. When it came to the watch, she just couldn't be bothered. It was too slow paced, not enough. And one day, she was caught running from her post, knocking over a few candles on her way out, chasing someone, yelling, "Stop, stop!" But when the captain of the guard finally caught up with her, asked her, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" She's like, "You're letting him get away. The perpetrator that knocked over all the candles." With that, her guard captain just kind of looked at her with a weird look on his face, and he goes, "You knocked over the candles, and no one's getting away." Dismayed and disrupted, she kind of shouted at her captain and told him that he was just covering for the poor man, that he would see and that she's going to make things right, so on and so forth. But this wasn't the first time she had chased imaginary perps and ghosts and the like. See, Lady Jenny had a secret that she wasn't willing to tell anyone. And that was she was plagued with insanity. And she just didn't know how to cope with it. She couldn't understand that these specters and spirits that she was chasing weren't real. Then eventually her father passed on to her this story from her mother's notes. And in it is inscribed, "The Curse of the Key." You know, she didn't learn about all the dangers that would befall her in this place. She just knew that had to be causing it. All the specters were running somewhere, and she had just found where. She now knew that she had to end the curse. It was her duty to her family. Finally get these specters to stop plaguing her and her brothers. But little did she know, those specters would lead her to an early demise, because when jumping up over spikes and dodging fire, swinging for ghosts just doesn't work. Okay, and what was the last heir of Jonas's tale, you ask? Why, none other than... Actually... Yeah. None other than Sir Jimmy the Mage. The nearsighted giant that could summon blade walls from the sky and grow beards at command. I guess. Let's get the Squire sword while we're at it. Alright. Away! Upon reaching the castle, he met a strange hooded figure that asked him for the last change in his pocket. Jimmy was kind of confused. He's like, why do you want my change? The hooded figure said, because none who enter shall ever leave, especially of your blood. Now this didn't bother Jimmy too much. He's encountered many figures just like the hooded figure. You know, ones that speak in riddles and rhymes, never tell you the full truth, the actual truth. But he also knew that this kind generally wouldn't back up their threats. So he refused to give him the money and entered. And now he fought his way through a few rooms, conquered spikes that shot fire and wisps, and even a strange hooded mage. Or at least the specter of one, and entered a few things, or cleared a few rooms, and then finally he met a strange beast that he had never encountered. And it struck him, and he finally felt a burning pain in his chest. And as Jimmy fell to the ground, the hooded figure appeared before him and said, "Everyone pays the tax of death." And that was the last thing Jimmy, or the lineage thereafter, had ever heard. Because that was the end of our story.